Hi folks, it's Mike from the Untitled Film Podcast. Hope you're all well. This is my face, my fat face. Look at that, oh my god. Just thought I'd try something a little bit new. I've got a YouTube channel I kind of neglect and never really knew what to do with, so I thought, why not do some videos talking about films and stuff as I'm driving back from the cinema, talking about whatever film I've just been to see. So this is what I'm going to try out. Although technically this isn't kind of like driving straight back from the cinema, because I just had to do a pit stop to pick up Judgment on PlayStation 4. But yeah, I was just at the cinema before I picked that up. Anyway, I've just finished watching Danny Boyle's new film yesterday with Himesh Patel and Lily James and Ed Sheeran and Kate McKinnon, which is a kind of feel-good film, which is using, I suppose that's like Hollywood's latest trope, you know, finding a musical kind of story to hinge a story around, a musical story to hinge a story on. Brilliant. To find a kind of like musical back catalogue to hinge a story around, because we obviously didn't get enough of it with Bohemian Rhapsody, and then Rocket Man. You know, it's one of them, when something's popular, Hollywood will flog that motherfucker to death. However, I had a little bit more faith, because I wasn't a big fan of Bohemian Rhapsody. It felt messy, it felt sloppy, and obviously there was production issues, you know, changing directors. It started with Bryan Singer directing it, and then Dexter Fletcher was brought in to finish it off when all the Bryan Singer shit kind of like happened, you know, fiddling fucking underage boys and all that shit, allegedly. So that just kind of like left a messy film, and then, you know, everyone just went mad because they thought Rami Malek was, you know, brilliant as Freddie Mercury. He was alright, but it was the whole theory of everything thing for me. It felt like more of a caricature than an actual, you know, character study, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, so obviously, you know, like I say, Hollywood have jumped on that trend because they brought Rocket Man out, which is supposed to be better, but I haven't watched that because I'm not really that interested in Elton John. And actually, as I was walking into the cinema, I was a few minutes late because I was supposed to go to an early showing, but missed that, so I went to a showing an hour later, and almost missed the start of that. But as I was walking in, there was a trailer on there for another musical based film. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically it's Bruce Springsteen. So, you know, it's about an Asian lad in what looks like the 80s in England. So you've got all the kind of racial kind of tension and bullying that's going on between like the skinheads of the yobbos of the 80s and all that. Fucking, I'm not a yobbo, but you know the types, the tight, you know, stonewashed blue jeans, a white vest. This is not a vest, this is actually my Turbo Wolf shirt, which is designed by Dean Collins, aka Jump Cancel, which you can get from @Lister Prints on Facebook if you want your own t-shirt. Enough shameless plugs. Go on, you might as well fucking force your way in. Stop waving and carry on driving. Come on, sunshine. Fucking hell. Where was I? So yeah, there's a Bruce Springsteen kind of musical film coming along in the next few months. What's next? I mean, are we going to have the Aqua movie? Who knows? So anyway, yesterday, directed by Danny Boyle, co-written by Richard Curtis. Good film. I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of the Beatles. Who isn't? I know there's some people who aren't really fans of the Beatles, but you know, can't please everyone. It's kind of a romantic comedy. So the film starts off with Jack Malik, played by Himesh Patel, as kind of like a struggling musician. He's literally at the bottom of the ladder, you know, trying to make his way through busking, playing pubs which are just kind of populated by, you know, deadbeats and fucking scrubbers and, you know, People who literally, you know the type, if you go into one of those kind of local pubs, people who are literally in there from 11:30, you know, as soon as the doors open, basically all the way through the day, and then go home at kind of like, you know, 6 and 7 o'clock, just sitting there reading the paper, drinking beer or bitter or, you know, whatever, just pissing the life away. Fucking yeah, so he's really struggling. Lily James is kind of like a childhood sweetheart friend who is managing him, so she's trying to book him on gigs and all of that stuff, but he resolves to, because it's not working out, he resolves to kind of like give up music and, you know, go full-time at his warehouse job to kind of make ends meet, or go back to teaching. And, you know, I didn't understand that. You know, he was a teacher, so why would he give that up to go part-time in a warehouse job where his manager's a racist piece of shit? And, well, is he racist? Low-key racist, because he kind of like, I don't like your beard and you know, you're scruffy and all this kind of stuff, and begrudgingly offers him to go full-time or sack him. Yeah. Broad characters in this film, typical Richard Curtis script. Excuse me, my can of Monster is repeating on me. So, you know, he resolves to give up his musical ambitions and gets hit by a bus, as you do. At the exact same time that all across the world, all of the power and lights and every kind of like electrical appliance gets turned off. Some kind of miracle, unexplained, you know, phenomenon. And then when he wakes up in hospital, he's had his front teeth knocked out, and is just kind of a little bit worse for wear. But then he quickly realises that after the bus accident, he's kind of in a parallel world, maybe, where no one knows who the Beatles are. John, Paul, George and Ringo never formed to become the Beatles, and no one knows their songs. And he starts playing the songs and begins to get recognition, and is quickly kind of, you know, bumped up the scale, and then all of a sudden he's opening for Ed Sheeran. So that's kind of like, you know, the outline of the story. We follow him along his journey as kind of like he gets picked up and kind of, you know, fame and fortune start knocking at his door. Kate McKinnon's character comes along as kind of like this, you know, greedy corporate music corporation, you know, stand-in who quite openly sucks the artists dry, not sexually, but, you know, financially and creatively. Yeah, it's an interesting film because, you know, I suppose it's interesting because it does take a few swipes at kind of like, you know, corporations and, you know, big faceless music organisations and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not entirely sure what it was actually, you know, trying to say with those scenes, because it takes a swipe, but it doesn't go for the jugular. Do you know what I mean? But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, with it being a Richard Curtis film, it is a kind of like a romantic comedy, top and bottom. A bit of a will they, won't they? Ooh, that was close. That's what you get for trying to sneak out, sweetheart. Yeah, will they, won't they kind of, you know, romantic comedy kind of thing. And yeah, it's the performances in this film that kind of pull it along, as well as the music. Obviously, you can't go wrong using the Beatles' back catalogue. And it's a strange thing because, like, there are moments in the film where literally Himesh Patel's character Jack will just sit and play, but you've probably seen it from the trailer, where he just sits and plays Yesterday. And there's a couple of other moments where he just kind of like, you know, play, or the film frames a scene around a particular song, and you'll hear the song playing, and for some reason it actually hits you in the feels. hits you in the feels, it gets you emotionally. And it wasn't just me being a soft twat. There was a couple sat behind me, there was people sat directly in front of me and off to the side, and I could hear the whole, the sniffles, and you could see people wiping a tear away and stuff like that. And that's just, I suppose that's the nostalgia factor that the film kind of plays on. That's probably why the Marvel films are so successful, because they are literally taking people back to their childhood when they were younger. That's why they're so successful, because what I found is the older I get, the more I crave the kind of innocence of youth. Maybe that's just, a natural part of growing old, where you're taking steps towards the grave kind of thing. Not to get too morbid, but the older I get, the more I kind of cherish those kind of memories of being a kid. And when a film or a TV show or a piece of music or whatever, piece of art comes out, which actually gives you just a tiny little sliver of your childhood back, that's just, what is that worth to someone? You know what I mean? So yeah, you've got all of the nostalgia of, how many years? So the Beatles were the 60s, and we're rocking up on. No, you just walk out in front of me. So we've got 60 years of musical history there, growing up with the Beatles, and the nostalgia that brings. I mean, I remember my uncle Tony he was a musician, and I remember when I was mid-teens to late teens. I remember going around to his house one day, and he had all of he had these boxes of vinyl, and I remember I said that I like the Beatles, and he kind of ruffled through the boxes, and he pulled out about 4 or 5 albums and just gave them to me, and that was the first Beatles records that I remember getting. I'm sure I've still got them somewhere. Probably around at my nan's, because she'll have them in her record collection. But yeah, so all of those kind of memories came flooding back. Memories of sitting and discovering the music with the CD, listening late at night on a CD player and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where I was going with that. Nostalgia, yeah. So yeah, obviously it brings back all the nostalgia for discovering that kind of music. Himesh Patel, I don't believe I've seen him in anything previously. I'm assuming that he has probably come through British television programmes somewhere, but I don't watch TV all that often. Lily James is the heart and soul of the film. I've seen her from the Churchill film with Gary Oldman. And she was really sweet and adorable in that as well, even though she just had a small part. So I've seen her in a few things, but Himesh Patel I'm not familiar with. But he's really likeable in this film, even though his character is a bit of a dope, in that cliched way where he can't see what's right in front of him, and he makes some poor decisions, and you find yourself, as you're watching the film, that's when you know a film's working, where you're actually inside, you're just like, will you just fucking wake up, you dope? And you will the character to do something that sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So you kind of go on that journey with them throughout the course of the film. So yeah, he walks that fine line, because even though he's a good guy, he does the wrong thing at some point, the wrong thing at some points in the film, but you never dislike him, if that makes sense. You always kind of wanting to do the right thing, and realise what's going on around him, and at certain moments in the film where he does that, then you get a real kick out of that, because you do grow to like the character a lot. can we talk about? Oh, Kate McKinnon. Fuck me. Fuck off back to Saturday Night Live and, you know, stay out of movies. She's just fucking annoying. She just mugs at the camera all the time, and I don't know if she thinks she's funnier than what she is. She might be funny in Saturday Night Live, but I'm not a fan of Saturday Night Live, so, you know, she doesn't really do anything for me. She was terrible in Ghostbusters, but that was just a fucking train wreck all around, and, you know, she was terrible in this. She just kind of is playing like a sleazy record exec, but she's dialed up to 11, you know, and she's just like pulling faces, and that's like her attempt at acting, which is really annoying. Like the weakest part of the film by a mile is anything that has got to do with her. I don't know why I'm looking over there because the camera's there. So yeah, whenever she's on the screen, it's really annoying. Those are the weakest kind of like parts of the film for me. The best parts of the film are any kind of scenes where Jack and Ellie, Lily James's character, are together. That's where the film kind of flies, and Danny Boyle has a few kind of visual flourishes in the film throughout. I wish there were a few more, because I really like it when he kind of like plays with colour in certain scenes, and it makes the film kind of like come alive when he does that. But yeah, really kind of like sweet relationship between the two of them. It wears its heart on its sleeve. It really does. It's a feel good movie. You come out of there having watched it, and you feel kind of like uplifted, and you kind of, in a way, you wish that your life had kind of turned out the way that theirs did, in a weird way, because you do kind of like fall in love with the characters a little bit. It's really sweet. It's really touching. It's got a great soundtrack. I mean, that goes without saying. It does have a great soundtrack, and when it does bring the songs forward, there's one song that I feel like they didn't pay off, because they set it up. You know, Jack struggles to remember the lyrics for a particular song. I don't want to give it away, because if you go and watch this film, which you really should, you'll know which song it is, because it has something to do with his love interest Ellie, and he's struggling to recall the lyrics of the song, and there must have been a deleted scene, because it's never paid off. Unfortunately, it's never paid off. I really wish, we had the scene where he remembers the lyrics, and he sings it to her, and she realizes, and all that kind of stuff. But it's not there. It's just not in the film, and that was kind of like a missed opportunity for me. And maybe it was because it would have been a little bit too on the nose, a little bit too obvious that to go down that route. But I wanted that to be in there. So we get to the end of the film, and it's never in there, which is a real shame. However, it's just nitpicking. Nothing in this film that I didn't like were kind of like deal breakers. Kate McKinnon's annoying. Ed Sheeran is a terrible actor. We knew that from Game of Thrones when he cropped up in that. But they're not deal breakers, because when the film goes away from them and goes back to Jack and Ellie, then that's where the film kind of flies. So yeah, that's Yesterday. I'm definitely giving it a 4 out of 5 if we're going off the star rating, or if we're just going off the 10 rating, it's double it. It's an 8 out of 10 film, simple as that. Definitely, you don't have to be a Beatles fan to enjoy this film, but it helps. Danny Boyle, for me, is just kind of like, he's not made a bad film. I'm struggling to think of a film that, I know some people don't like his films, notably Sunshine, which I think is a fantastic film. Maybe The Beach. Is it a bad film, or is it just one of those where people don't like it? I'm not sure. I probably have to rewatch that again. It's been a long time. I know people kind of forget A Life Less Ordinary as well, and say that's one of his lesser films, but even his lesser films are, at the very least, interesting and playful. A Life Less Ordinary. I've really enjoyed A Life Less Ordinary. I might have to revisit that. Yeah, I, he's definitely not made a bad film. Shallow Grave, Trainspotting, A Life Less Ordinary, The Beach. What did he do before 28 Days Later? 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Slumdog Millionaire. I'm probably missing a few here. I can't think of a bad film that he's made. If you disagree, or if you can point me to a bad film, and talking subjectively a bad film, not just a film that is kind of like not your cup of tea, then let me know. But for me, he's probably the most consistent director that's working today, and he's a local lad. He's a Radcliffe lad. So yeah, I'll always go and watch a Danny Boyle film in the cinema, and pay my ticket fare. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that he hasn't done a James Bond film, and he left that project, but we got Yesterday out of it, and you can't really be mad at that. So go and check out Yesterday, and if you like me waffling with a fat, sweaty face because it's hot, if you like these car reviews, I don't know what I'm going to call them. It's not carpool karaoke, is it? So I can't nick that idea off James Corden. Car park movie reviews, I don't know. If you've got an idea for what I should call these little reviews, and you like them, more importantly, then like the video and subscribe, and maybe check out our podcast, the Untitled Film Podcast, that I do with Lee James Peake. And yeah, if people watch these, then I'll probably do some more, because what else have I got to do when I'm driving back from the cinema than talk about the film that I've just watched? Fucking hell, I'm going to have to get a higher angle. This is why you should always have a camera, you do the high angle thing, because like when you do the low angle thing, you just see all of that. Look at my fucking triple chins. Anyway, I'm sweating my knackers off in the car. I need to go and install Judgment and play that, but well, it's nice. I'm going to go and walk the dog. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and hopefully I will be back with another video after I've been to the cinema next time, which probably be for Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Bye. I'm going to look into the camera as I say bye. Bye.